Welcome in, everyone, to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We're striking up a live stream on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Kyle, thank you so much. Kyle, I cannot thank you enough. Kyle has the phone number posted for everyone before I could get to it at 860-325-3687. Again, just check out in the live chat. As you guys can tell, I am on the road tonight, but have time for a live stream. So here we are to talk college football, 860-325-3687. I was just catching the last few minutes of Ohio State and Michigan from 1985. Michigan folks, you should be a huge fan of the Big Ten Network right now, because if there's any fan base that needs a look to yesteryear to reclaim some glory, certainly at least against, in this situation, in that series against Ohio State, it would be Michigan. So, State in the last few weeks, all on the Big Ten Network and all decade to go. This version from 1985, Jim Harbaugh, 2-0 against the Buckeyes at the time. Remember, 2-0 for Jim Harbaugh at one time in his career as a quarterback. Now 0-5 against the Buckeyes. I wanted to have, at this point, released my look at Alabama, Ohio State. So NCIS Fanatic 21 has posted it right there. Ohio State, Alabama to play in 2027 and 28. I have posted the video, so I produced the video just minutes ago. Because of the internet not being as good as it should be, unfortunately, it did not post. So we'll get that to you as soon as possible. I take a look at Alabama, Ohio State, and what I consider to be the best matchup that is possible in college football, because you have the best combination of historic powers, but also elite programs now. And that leads me to another possible video that I might be posting soon. I started to break down college football in tiers. So some of you will get into that. It's a good debate. Looking at college football in tiers. Let's see. So my first crack at it, this is not a completed work here. Yes, Michigan won 27-17 and NCIS Fanatic 21 in 1985. This is my first rough draft. I'm just starting. Tier number 1 would be Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. Tier number 2, Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU. Tier number 3, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Auburn, Florida, Oregon, Wisconsin, Texas, Washington, USC. Tier number 4, Iowa, Virginia Tech, Minnesota, Florida State, Louisville, Miami, Pitt, North Carolina, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, West Virginia, TCU, Michigan State, Northwestern, Washington State, Stanford, Utah, Arizona State, Tennessee State. Should probably throw Kentucky in there. Tier number 5, Boston College, Syracuse, Wake, North Carolina State, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Duke, Baylor, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Indiana, Maryland, Purdue, Cal, and UCLA. Tier number 6, Kansas, Rutgers, Illinois, Oregon State, Colorado, Arizona. So I'd have to work in the group of 5 as well. So tiers of college football teams. What do you do with Georgia? What do you do with LSU? Are they on tier 1 with Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State? Prior to last season, was Clemson and Ohio State just a notch above Clemson, Alabama, just a notch above Ohio State? What do you do with Oklahoma? Regular season dominance that is close to, if not on par with, those 3 elites. But we know what Oklahoma does in postseason play. But we had a pretty good conversation on our last call-in show with 2880. Oh, man. You gotta forgive me, man. I always forget your is it 28 AD 28 or is it AD 28 AD? Whatever it is. On where to place Oklahoma. All right. the super chat's available, and DeAndre, I appreciate your super chat contribution. I will get that to the screen soon, DeAndre. I appreciate it. Man, we had a great conversation talking Clemson with DeAndre, with Pigskin Pete, and with Brian Knight last Sunday night. So check that out. I've been breaking down the rosters of every team in college football, trying to get to as many as possible. Florida's coming up the next 2 days. We have looked at Ohio State the last 2 days. We've also looked at Michigan. Alabama and Oregon are coming up. We've looked at Auburn's offense, Oklahoma's offense, the defense coming up. So a number of teams we've got to get to, but we are breaking down rosters. Took a look at Arkansas the other day. That was a great conversation. Great contribution from Nick Walters, who covers Arkansas football for a couple local TV stations down in Little Rock. So check out that video. Kyle, first in, and reminding everyone, 860-325-3687. Want to talk to you. And whatever hot debate topics you have for tonight. Birmingham Kane, good to see you, as well as Dennis Wilson. Dennis, it's always great to see you. Big Miami fan, of course, but joins us on all the live streams. Dennis, I love when fans of particular teams love their teams, are sold out, die hard for their team, but they call in and they join us in the live chat for the other shows. I think that's awesome. True college football fans right there, and Dennis is certainly in that category. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
My man, NT8.
Hey, Navy, how are you? How's it going?
Hey, I just wanted to, I wanted you to bring up that, I don't know, I think I've sold you 10 subjects of various Big Ten things going on that I sent you through Twitter. Man, I'm telling you, I'm looking for answers. Looking cold, baby. Looking cold big time. And they're talking about Bob Stoops and Norvell coming in to take over his place. So,
well, Bob Stoops, of course. Well, Bob Stoops, obviously, he has ties to Iowa.
I'm having trouble hearing you on the phone here.
Uh-oh. I hope I'm not having that issue.
No,
tonight.
It's all right.
You got me?
It's all right. It's me.
I don't think Kirk Ferentz is in trouble. I don't think he is. But I've been wrong before. And in this world right now, in the world we're living in right now, in the country we're living in right now, shoot, who knows what a coach is going to get fired or labeled as or reprimanded for coming up. It's getting a bit ridiculous and insane. Navy, you got me?
Yeah, it's all about this. It's all about this racial thing that keeps coming up.
Yes.
And it's not a big deal for you to cover that because none of us are going to understand what any of this stuff is going on. But yeah, man, I'm just sick of hearing all this crap. And to COVID-19, let's just go back to, all right, back it up a month. Let's go back to a shortened football conference, if nothing else. They're talking about cutting down fans going into 20,000 people in the stadiums. That was another one that came up today. I didn't send it to you, but at Nebraska, Hoiberg, the basketball coach, and Scott Frost from the football coach are going to give up money back to the Nebraska football or Nebraska athletic of you're going to give up money to go back to them to pay to cover all this, but I don't see anything else from any other team in the conference or anywhere else in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to throw that at you to see what you can do with it and go with it.
Well, Tom, there are a number of schools across the country whose higher paid employees, whether it be the president or the head football coach, are taking some minor pay cuts. That's happened in a few places to pay for the lost revenue from the spring sports not being played, and what's expected to be lost revenue, obviously this fall.
I just wanted to bring it up to you, and from the greatest fan club on MRTV, the greatest group that I want to hear from all you guys, and go with that from there. So, all right, we'll talk to you later, man. Thanks.
Thanks for being the first call, Tom. Always appreciated. Our man, Navy Thomas, supports the channel, feeds me more info and articles to give me leads on breaking news and just other topics out there than just anybody. Then we've got our number one commenter, of course, would be George. Hurricane Logan's on the line. Good to see Hurricane Logan. All right, calls coming in. Let's talk college football. Again, I have an Alabama-Ohio State video coming. I wanted to have it released by now and posted, but unfortunately, the internet was not processing the video correctly. So we'll get that to you as soon as possible. My look at Ohio State, Alabama, scheduled to play in 27-28. 27 and 28. MarkRogersTV, voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McGee Sports 4. How are you doing?
There he is. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good. What's going on?
I'm on the road.
I'm on the road. I am on the road. What's that?
Max, which state?
You may. So you're asking, huh? I'm in Texas.
Texas is a fun state, Mark.
I've been to Texas quite a bit in the last year. Quite a bit of time in Texas over the last year. Maybe I could bring some reports in from the University of Houston and obviously some other places, but Houston would be the closest football program to me. Yeah, that's the next step would be I'm going to get out there to different sites, get some team reports from campus if we didn't have this coronavirus business plaguing us.
Yeah. And I'm calling up for a few reasons. And none of them are about mail-in, actually, which is surprising.
Okay.
But the first thing I want to talk about, college football and NFL will happen this year. I don't care what that doctor said. It will happen. And the guy, I think, is honestly just trying to steal headlines, honestly. And I think football will happen. I would not buy anything until what that doctor is saying. Football is going to happen.
Okay. Well, I certainly was very optimistic, you know, when the NCAA council put together its plan that's since been approved. So that is good to see, and that all these universities and conferences have gotten together. They're all on the same page. But now we're starting to see tests come back positive, which is not a positive. But at least it's happening here in mid-June.
Well, my second point is to go into all these players getting tests. And now this might sound maybe not, this might sound mean and it might not sound that nice, but my response to that is good. because as far as I'm concerned, reading everything correctly, they can't get the virus again after they get it once.
I believe that's been substantiated. We didn't know that for a long time, but I believe I am no coronavirus expert by any stretch, but that's what I believe is the case. Yes, that's what I've heard.
I'd rather have actually everybody on the team actually get it now rather than during football season. If they happen to get it.
Yep, definitely.
I know that sounds mean, but I mean,
no, I understand your point. The two other positives in this is, as is being pointed out by Kyle, I've heard this statistic as well. He's got 87% of all new COVID-19 cases are asymptomatic, meaning that they're showing no symptoms. So we're dealing with young people, for the most part, the players. Now we start dealing with coaches and coaching staffs. Obviously, that's a different deal. But when let's just look at the players right now. Obviously, we're dealing with young, healthy people, and so the overwhelming result of that has been that they've been either asymptomatic or have been just barely affected, but like it's a normal flu. Now, we don't want to discount that there have been healthy younger people that have reacted more negatively to it, but by and large,
absolutely,
a huge percentage. We're talking, like Kyle points out here, 87% asymptomatic, and then even beyond that, with just minor traces of having flu-like issues. Still nothing to be taken lightly, but we're dealing with a small percentage, even the ones that test positive, that are going to be severely affected.
I absolutely agree with everything you just said, Mark. I mean, obviously everybody reacts to the virus differently, and we don't want senior citizens, for some of the coaching staff so far, senior citizens technically, they're in the 60s or 70s, get the COVID-19, the coronavirus. But at the same time, it's probably more selfish more than anything, but I would rather see them get it now, have a 2-week quarantine, as long as everybody has it and it's all passed around by mid-July. No one on the team's going to get it if I'm reading all the information correctly because they already had it. So that's why I think that that overall football fans should rather have the players, even the coaches, even though we don't want no one to die, have complications, get it now, and so we can have a full football season. But I know that sounds really selfish and probably sounds mean, but I mean, looking at everything, I would rather have that. So,
no, I understand what point you're making. You're not being mean about it. You're just basically saying that there's not a chance of repeat contracting this virus. Therefore, if you're going to get it, might as well get it now, get it out of the way, and you're looking for a football season. I get it, McD. No harm in the way you're phrasing it. I got you. I'm with you. Absolutely.
Okay. Another point I want to bring up, Kirk Ferentz at Iowa and Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State will not get fired. They are probably top 10 safest coaches in the country as far as I'm concerned, and I don't think they're going to get fired.
Top 10 safest. I don't know if they're quite that safe, but I agree with you that they won't be fired. If one of them would be fired, I would think it would be Gundy, more so
I
than
would think that too.
Kirk Ferentz, because I just think Kirk Ferentz is more of an institution. Number one, his issue is an assistant, not him personally.
And here's the argument I can make for people who want Gundy fired. Who's Oklahoma State going to hire? To me, Oklahoma State, recruiting-wise right now, it's probably mediocre year in and year out anyways, but no one wants to play at Oklahoma State. Get someone in there that doesn't know what they're doing, that program will go south very quickly. They'll be at Kansas level, or like a step above it. So that's my argument with that.
Well, to your point, McD, before Les Miles, Oklahoma State was awful for years and years and years and years. Pat Jones had a couple of decent years there, some really good years. But generally, Oklahoma State was nothing close to what they've been over the last 20 years. Yeah, they were in Kansas or Kansas State, somewhere in between there.
Yeah.
So it's not a given that Oklahoma State's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I get the wrong guy in there. If you have to Mike Gundy because it's just too much. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's their decision. But get the wrong guy in there. You'll see how fast things go south at Oklahoma State quickly. They'll be 3-9 every year, or 4-8.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you they will. I mean,
McD, let me ask you this: can you see the show right now?
Mm-hmm.
How do we look in sound?
I don't have the volume on because I don't want to get the the volume of the show. But overall, I mean, you're glitching a little bit every now and then, but you're doing fine.
Okay.
It's watchable.
We sometimes have our difficulty from the hotel here, and somebody had mentioned that. So I just checking because it looks perfect here, but it always does in my return. But I don't see what you guys see. So just checking there. What else was on your mind?
I just wanted to call up and just state there's 3 things. I mean, I actually have nothing on University of Maryland to talk about, which is surprising. But as I always say at the end of the calls, Mark, thanks for taking my call and go church.
All right, McD. You have a good night.
Have a good one.
All righty. My man McD, who evidently had his bread today. I don't know what that's all about, where that came from, but it's become a thing. As McD had his bread. Alabama, Ohio State are playing, folks. Alabama. And I guess it's time, and this is one of the things when the channel grows, and this is a great thing, more people come on, but many of you have not heard my conference breakdowns, my scheduling analysis, reformatting scheduling, those sorts of things that we've done to rework college football. I would tear up the scheduling. Why are schools allowed to schedule? Why do schools make their own schedules? This doesn't happen in any other sport. And I am not promoting, supporting, or suggesting, recommending an NFL type schedule. So sometimes people get this wrong when I unveil my schedule and they say, oh, you want to do it like the NFL. No. The NFL, by the way it formats its draft and the schedule, is trying to take the good teams and great teams and press them down and oppress them and lift up the bad teams. They're trying to create parity. So they don't want dynasties, and they want to bring competitive balance to the league. That's what the NFL is trying to do. So they give the better teams the tougher schedules, give the bad teams easier schedules for as much as they can. They can't control who's in whose division. That's already set up. But they give, if you've seen the NFL schedule formula, the good teams get the tough schedules, the bad teams get the easy schedules to bring parity. And then obviously the draft is stacked in such a way. And when you think about it, the draft is not fair. If this is the way the NFL should draft, this would be fair, that they would have a randomizer, let's say, for the first round. And then whatever the randomizers dictated in the first round would be juxtaposed in the future rounds. Meaning, if you draft number 1 in the first round, you would draft last in the second round. If you drafted last in the first round, you would have a double up and you would draft first in the second round. That would be fair. But the NFL is not looking for fairness. They're looking for parity. So therefore, again, if If you have the worst record in the league, you're going to draft first. If you have the best record in the league, you're going to draft last, or the Super Bowl champion and runner-up. Then it goes by record in the NFL. That's not what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing, my schedule format, is to bring equality to scheduling, making it fair. And I've outlined that a number of times and posted videos. But again, this is the detriment to having a growing channel, is that then many people don't know that we have these types of videos out there and have addressed these topics about scheduling, about rankings, about playoffs. I've unveiled my plan for all those things. Conference realignment, playoffs, scheduling. We have made it a point each offseason to break down the results of all the Power 5 matchups and then rank the conferences. So we seed the conferences. We give a weight to each conference game or out-of-conference game. Think of it this way. We'll take this call first. Stay tuned. All right.
The call will start at the beep.
Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's David Knight. How are you doing?
Hi, David. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. Well, just enduring what everybody else is enduring. Let me get your thoughts on a 16 playoff system versus an 18 playoff system. The thing I would kind of go for is and it's just me thinking, I'm nobody, I got it. But if you had 6 teams, you get 2 with a bye, and then you have the 4 play, and then you play it out from there. If you go with the 18 system, you got, a different scenario. What do you think?
So, David, let me ask you this. I see your comments on a regular basis. I know that you watch pretty faithfully, but how long have you been watching me?
About 6 months.
Okay.
Actually, maybe even less than that. I think since the COVID virus has happened, I've been locked down like everybody else has. And I look at your Ohio State videos because I have some friends that are rabid Ohio State fans, so I even have an Ohio State jersey.
Okay. So here's the deal, David. I respect your opinion, of course, as I do with all my callers, but here are the reasons why I hate a 16 playoff. Okay?
Okay, sure.
So you made the comment, and so you've worked out the math that it doesn't work in terms of an equal number of games. To have a true tournament with a fair allotment of games for everyone and access to the championship, it has to go 2, 4, 8, 16, etc. Correct? So when you've got 6, you have to have a bye. You have to have 2 byes, as you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So my first issue is who receives the byes. Do me a favor, David. Look at the college football playoffs since it started in 2014 and determine what 6 teams would have made it and which 2 would have received byes. You will have a nightmare scenario of trying to determine who gets the bye. Number one issue.
It's a bit of a storm.
And the issue there is think of 2 ways. Think of it in terms of just the probabilities of making the championship are exponentially higher if you receive a bye. You don't have to play.
Sure.
Obviously. And we understand that, let's say, I don't know if you're an NFL fan, but teams receive byes in the NFL, but it's an objective system that determines who gets a byes. The teams that receive byes have earned the bye by winning a division championship, by having the better record when there's a system where everybody plays each other. So best record means something. In college football, best record doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Mark, I'm finally understanding what you're saying. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So that's the first issue, is to determine, and I've gone through the years, and it's funny because the previous caller, McD Sports, he used to argue with me about the 16. He loved the 16 playoff, and when we had it out one time, and he came to my side on this because there's an exponential advantage to receiving the bye. Number one, just in terms of the probabilities of not having to play a game. Number two, David, is that even if you win that game, you will have played one of the best teams in the country, and the risk of injury and just beating your team down and not being as fresh for that next game is just another huge disadvantage. And I just don't believe that there's a clear distinction to which teams would receive the buys. There's no objective system to determine that.
I'm with you on that. Everything you just said, I agree 100%.
So for this past season, we had 3 teams with undefeated records. And so only 2 of them would have received buys. So it would have been a tough pill to swallow for the 3rd team that would have had to play an extra game. That's one example.
Okay. Hey, Mark, I'm thinking of in terms of Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. Now, if you think about like the SEC, which is a log jam, the LSU, Alabama, Georgia, maybe even you could throw Auburn in there, maybe. So you have things compiling there, and then also the thing I like about Ohio State, and I know you're an Ohio State fan, and I am to some degree. You know, I love Notre Dame, so it's not the same thing, but I do root for Ohio State as well. Great recruiting, great coaching, stability in coaching, and I think for my money, they're the team for this year and the coming years. I think Clemson is on fire, but I think if Ohio State plays Clemson again, they'll take care of that. But you know, when you stack them up in a offensive college football playoff system, you know, how do you put everybody? I'm asking you. You say it. You tell me.
How am I looking at the playoff this year?
Yes, sir. I mean, given we have a season that plays out.
Well, this is the unfortunate portion of the sport, David. If you would go pick your year, sometime in the late 70s is when I started watching college football, and go all the way through into roughly 10 to 15 years ago, and it's amazing to see how many teams competed for national championships. You had 3 and 4, 5 teams at each conference that over a 5 or 6 year span would seriously contend for national championship. We had 25 and 30 teams nationally that over a stretch of 5 and 6 years would compete for a national championship. That's how much parity there was in college football. You know, we had the likes of Georgia Tech and Colorado competing for national championships.
Tommy Frazier, Nebraska.
Well, sure, yeah. So right now we don't have that. So it's the best product. It's the best sports product on the field, but it's a bit boring in regards to projection and what's going to happen. So I don't think there's probably anyone watching us right now who doesn't think that Clemson is going to make the playoffs.
And I agree. I think they will as well, but they have some roadblocks.
Because of how good they are, and that they don't play in a difficult conference. So that's unfortunate that Clemson almost is playing a playoff game already. So they're in. They're a 90-some% certainty that they will make the college football playoff. I believe Alabama.
And I would say Ohio State is in, but Ohio State plays a tough schedule.
Ohio State has to deal with much tougher teams in its conference and more parity in its conference. But yeah, they are clearly the best team in the Big Ten. But I would be less shocked to see Ohio State get knocked off by a Michigan, a Penn State, or a Big Ten championship game, or an Iowa this year than Clemson losing in its conference.
But Mark, I would say this about Ohio State.
Yep.
I don't see them get knocked off by anybody unless they have a slip up.
Well, that's not what I said.
I think they're clearly the superior team.
Well, that's what I said. They're the best team in the conference, clearly, but there is less of a chance Clemson is going to slip up than Ohio State. Not because they're better, but because of the conference.
Sure.
So if you put those two in, then you're determining whether the SEC second place team is going to make it, or a Big Ten second place, a Penn State, I've heard some rumblings there that a lot of people like Penn State to possibly.
I have heard that as well.
But most likely it's going to be 2 SEC teams and a Big 12 or Pac-12 champion.
Okay, like for all the bad talk about Notre Dame never winning a big game, Oklahoma never wins a big game, right? They get blown out. I watched the replay of the LSU Oklahoma game, 49-14 at halftime, right?
Yeah, awful. Yes,
and it was ugly. Look, I got it. Notre Dame doesn't belong in those games. I wish they did. I'm a Notre Dame fan, but they don't make that happen, so they get what they get. But I would also say that some of the SEC teams maybe they got left out in lieu of Oklahoma, like Georgia. I mean, there's three teams there, right? There's LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and every now and then Auburn, but Auburn hadn't quite gotten over the hump.
Well, the thing I will say about Notre Dame is, yes, it's been a long, long time since Notre Dame won a big game against a big opponent on a big stage. But most recently, other than the blowout against Clemson in the 2018 playoff, let's keep in mind that Notre Dame has fared pretty well against Michigan, and I know Michigan's down a tier from those other teams, but let's note that Georgia has one of the best rosters in the country. And the year that Georgia came within an eyelash of winning the national championship in 2017, that Notre Dame took Georgia down to a 20-19 game. They only lost by 1 point against Georgia that year. And then last season, they played within one score of Georgia in Athens. They played Clemson extremely tough. The year Clemson went to its first national championship game in 2015, that went down to a 2-point conversion at the goal line. So Notre Dame has played some respectable football at times in those big matchups. They haven't won any of them. And I'm trying to think of the last time Notre Dame won a huge game. Of course, they won big games leading up to the college football playoff in 2018 and in the 2012 season in which they reached the national championship game, but didn't really play an elite team in either one of those years.
Yeah, you just can't get over the hump, though.
All right, David, anything else on your mind?
Hey, let me ask you one more question,
Sure.
I'll let you go. What is the intrigue for all these great football players to commit to Ohio State during the COVID-19 virus with maybe not even seeing the campus? Because Ohio State's got a great recruiting track going for them right now.
That's a great question. So my first thought would be that when all this broke, when all this happened, and all the face-to-face was taken away from the recruiting process, that Ohio State and Ryan Day simply put a plan in place and put a strategy in place faster, quicker, more effectively than everyone else did. That would be number one. Number two, that Ohio State is out recruiting everybody in the country outside of Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia anyway. So it's not like they were recruiting at, Michigan State's level and then all of a sudden took advantage of this COVID-19 situation and elevated itself to a number one ranked recruiting class. They were already in that top 4 mix anyway. And then also, because anytime, as you well know, there's momentum in certain things. When there's a scarcity of a resource, there tends to be a run on it. You see that at the NFL draft. Things get overbought. You see that in the stock market when there's a run on something, whether that's optimism or fear. And so we're seeing that now in recruiting where spots are being taken up. And we have more than twice as many players have committed at this point right now in June than is typical. So once something starts to gain momentum, it tends to keep gaining momentum. And players are seeing that scholarship spots are being taken up, and so more players are committing.
So they're saying, like, if I don't get my opportunity is now, and if I don't take advantage of it, I may not have the opportunity down the road.
Yeah, and that's more for the, let's say, 3-star athlete who still is a very coveted prospect, but he wants to be able to decide where he wants to go and not just have to pick over the leftovers. The 5-star guy, he can wait until the last day if he wants to. He's going to get to go. He's so highly coveted that he's going to get to go where he wants.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Hey, I'm out of your hair, brother.
No, I appreciate it, David. You keep watching, and we appreciate the support and the phone call.
Yeah, I love your show, man. You know, like, in the home 24/7, I get to see your shows, man. And even if they're not teams, yeah, I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I feel like being involved with other teams, it's good introspect. We
started doing a Notre Dame live stream, you well may know, but just wasn't coming off too well.
Yeah, you told me last time it was on Monday night, but Monday night I'm in meetings with Dubai and Afghanistan. I work for a prison system in Afghanistan, so
you are on the cutting edge of much more important things than what we're dealing with here. So, David, we appreciate your service there.
I love your show, man. I do love it.
Thank you so much, David. Take care.
Take care of yourself, brother. Bye-bye.
So we had a couple other calls coming in. So again, please call back at 860-325-3687. 860-325-3687. There we go. So I apologize for the calling system. One day we'll get there and have a professional calling system in which we are able to put people on hold, but can't do that at this point. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Oh, yes, this is Jacob from Ohio, actually.
Hey, Jacob, how are you?
She just missed some old school NCAA out, but yeah, I've been watching your show for a little while here and there, and I see you do a lot of Ohio State stuff, and some of your other shows I like pretty well, and I just want to get your opinion on some stuff about this year for the Buckeye season, and kind of how, the playoff, how maybe, I see it possibly shaping out, and how you see it shaping out there, Mark.
All right, so you're asking how I think the Buckeyes are going to fare this year.
Yeah.
I think that the offense could inexplicably, well, I'm going to explain it here. I think that the offense could be even better this year, even with J.K. Dobbins gone. And he was a force, of course, last year.
Yeah.
But if Justin Fields is healthy, if that knee is healthy against the better teams, and he was not against Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Clemson. He was compromised. He was basically a drop-back passer. That if he's able to be at full strength for the entire season, that is a huge, huge factor in this Ohio State offense being better. For as good as he was last year as well, I expect him to be a better, more precision passer, better decision maker this year. Running back, I don't know if they went on the roster is J.K. Dobbins. I think they'll be fine at running back, but they miss a lot. And I also don't want to underestimate the loss of K.J. Hill as just a tremendous route runner, guy that can read a coverage and know where to be converting third downs. K.J. Hill, the guys that are replacing him are probably better athletes. They're talking about Garrett Wilson being the slot receiver, moving him inside. But to be able to have the savvy to convert third downs like K.J. Hill might be missed. Defensively, I don't know if they're going to be quite as good. They lost their two best players, Jeff Okudah and Chase Young. The linebackers, I did like what I saw out of the linebacker improvement from 2018 to 19, and I think that's going to improve, that they're going to be better athletically at linebacker. And it was huge that Sean Way decided to return to school and play another season. So I think we're looking at arguably the best team in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you on all those fronts. I think the wide receivers for the Buckeyes, I've been thinking, like, I kind of think that's the position we're reloading at. But one of my friends, I was actually talking to him last night, and he brought up the receivers. He didn't think they'd be as good, and I was thinking, well, but then I thought KJ Hill, like you had mentioned, because man, it just seemed like every time you watch Hightail on offense, KJ Hill was making plays. And for me, that defense, I agree with you. I think our offense is going to be Oklahoma type explosive, even possibly better than last year. I think the wide receivers that we recruited, young as they are, it'll take some time, I believe, for Justin and them to catch their stride. And like you said, they're really athletic. I just think the potential is there. I think at the end of the day, eventually that'll, overshadow the. And then secondly, Justin Fields, I think really good. You have some security blankets there. I think with C.J. Stroud, all the experience isn't there yet. Defense, I just think maybe team defensively, I agree with you. I don't know if it's there this year. I'd like our linebackers. I don't think we'll get as much rush from the D line because Young is gone. I think the fact that Sean Wade came back is really good, like you said. I just think with Halfley gone, now I think if you could remind me, who because he coached us 2 years. Who was that again?
Oh, who replaced Jeff Halfley at Ohio State? That is a great question as defensive backs. Can somebody in the chat help me out on that one? That one's slipping my mind. And as soon as I see it, I will be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he coached with Vrabel on the Titans.
Really, the DB coached with Vrabel with the Titans. Huh.
Yeah,
man, I'm not coming up with who
I
that is.
I watch Letterman Rowe a lot, and I think him, and I forget who else is going to be the D coordinator, but I can't remember his name. He coached in Cincinnati, I guess, for a little bit actually Cincinnati high school. But I guess what I'm saying is, he coached back, I think, when Eli Apple knew. I may be wrong. I'm not sure if he was there in 14 when we won it, but I know this. He's really good, and I think we'll have him playing ball. But I just think I think this is going to be a transition year defensively. It was just something when I looked at Ohio State's defensive roster last year. I just happened to skim through it, and that's all I had to see. I was like, wow, his defense, and I just don't think we want to have it this year. Now, some people may get upset by this comment I'm about to say, but I don't know, man. I kind of see an Iowa or something coming this year where Ohio State, for some reason, just can't. But I think in the next few years, you could see Ryan Day bringing them a few national championships because of recruiting talent. And I think as far as the playoff and ammo wide meet again, and I think you may have Oklahoma again or something, and then a Big Ten team. If Ohio State don't go, kind of seen some of what the other caller said earlier, and I think you had said, I think the Pac-12 maybe, but if it's not Oregon or USC, I don't. But anyways, if Ohio State or maybe a Big Ten team can't fill that, would be fourth or third spot. I kind of think maybe if you get two SEC teams, if not, I don't know, but I just think I think we could see another Iowa or Purdue. You know what I mean? And I don't know what your opinion is on that, but I just. Something, and I don't know what's the best way to explain it. It's just almost like they had more depth at they had depth, not so much depth at secondary, but they had depth at line. I don't know. I don't see our defense being as good. It almost seemed like they played better team defense. Do you agree? It just seemed like there was all hats flying to the ball, and they was just, I don't know. I just maybe your opinion on that and about the Final Four for yours, and then how I said about the Iowa thing. What do you think about those?
Okay, mentioned it. To your point, Damon Arnett gone, and oh my goodness, who else did they lose in the secondary? They had another number one. Damon Arnett. Oh my goodness, they drafted by the Rams and the Raiders. Arnett went to the Raiders, and Jordan Fuller went to the Rams. So they had two other drafted players out of the secondary, and we know that they reload in the secondary. But I do agree that it's and with Amir Reep being kicked out of the program, the Sean Wade decision is enormous. But he's just a player that's staying for as good as he is. So I do think the secondary.
He was only a sophomore last year. He's going to be a junior this year.
Yeah, so I do think that the secondary is lacks depth for the first time in quite some time. It has more question marks than it has in quite some time. And
I think. Sorry,
again, I don't know that there's a dynamic running back on the roster. I think they're good as a group. Crowley and Chambers and Sermon coming in is a good addition, but I don't think anybody's. They have had, if you look year to year, they've had Dobbins. They almost bookended Zeke's career with Dobbins. They missed in 2016 when it was Mike Weber's number one spot. And then before Zeke, they had Carlos Hyde. They've had a dynamic NFL caliber back for a long time, and I don't know if they have that guy this year. By committee, they're good. They're deep there with Crowley and Chambers and now Sermon, and we'll see if they find a role for DeMario McCall. But I don't think they've got that guy that's like a top 5 back in the nation.
Yeah.
I'm starting to talk myself out of picking Ohio State to win the national championship.
You said you don't see him, or you?
Well, I just said I'm starting to argue myself out of Ohio State winning the national championship.
Yeah, man. It's one of those things. It's where it's like, what I think it is. I know this is actually going to be embarrassing. Your name's Mark, right? I watched your show a lot.
Absolutely.
Your name's Mark, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just make sure. Okay, Mark. I think here's the thing. I just came up with how I was trying to come up with a word to describe the whole defense thing. I think what it is the reason I've been skeptical is because of this specific team is because I think they lack complementary pieces. And I think the years that maybe like they lost to Clemson, what was it, 31-0? I was all for it. And what it was, I think, that team was good, but they didn't mesh. It's kind of like, you can have a 5-star guy, another 5-star guy, but I just kind of think like a Kuda and Arnett, they was probably a perfect match on opposite ends. You had Arnett with that kind of tough. I mean, the guy was playing with a doggone cast on his wrist, and then you have a Kuda, and then Jordan Fuller out there, and I know Josh Proctor, he's something else. He's going to be interesting, but I guess that's why I could see something happening like in Iowa, and I don't know if anybody else sees that, but I don't know. Do you think that could happen? And I don't mean in actual Iowa, but I guess if you think off the top of your head of the schedule, Mark, what do you think? Could you see that happening? And even could you see us losing to Penn State, or dare I say it, even the team up north? Because I don't know. I kind of wonder if it may not happen this year. But so what's your thoughts on that? I guess if you would want to speak on that.
Here we go. So Michigan is going to beat Ohio State sometime. It is going to happen. So this series is not going to stay this way forever. They're going to win. Even if Ohio State continues to dominate after that and still maintains its lead in the series and dominance in the series, Michigan will win this game at some point. Do I think they're going to win this year? Most likely not. Can they win the game? Yes. As you mentioned, Iowa and Purdue blasted Ohio State, and those two teams weren't nearly as good as the Michigan teams that Ohio State has killed. So there's a psychological factor working there. Ohio State is not 4 or 5 touchdowns better than Michigan. There's a psychological factor in there as well. And anybody who wants to get on here and argue with me about Ohio State being 5 touchdowns better than Michigan, that's ridiculous. There's only about 87 ways that I could argue that they're not. Are they better than Michigan? Yes. I'm not saying they are substantially, significantly better. They are one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the country. Michigan's more like the 10th, the 15th best team in the country, and there's a drop off, no question. Penn State was not up to the challenge this past year. They played a pretty scrappy game. They were within 4 points in the fourth quarter, lost by 11. Ohio State had to give them some gifts. But as you well know, the 2 previous years, Penn State outplayed Ohio State for most of the game and blew double-digit leads in the last few minutes. They were up by 18 in Columbus. They were up by 12 in Happy Valley and blew those games. So they were right there. And yes, these teams are capable of beating Ohio State. Sure they are. Now, people are going to misconstrue that as me saying they're better than Ohio State. That's not what I'm saying. Ohio State is clearly the best team in the conference. But these teams can win on a given Saturday against Ohio State. And they're going to have to face Iowa this year. It's in Columbus, but they still have to face Iowa this year too.
Yeah, I think the game is a watch. Honestly, Oregon. But honestly, if we do play that because of the virus and not if everybody's being safe out there, I think Ohio State will take Oregon this year, even on the road. But I think like Iowa, Penn State, maybe even Michigan. But you know what? When you was talking, and I thought right before you said it, you were saying the psychological advantage, and that's right. Because Michigan, I don't know, man. Which I think their quarterback is Dylan McCaffrey. I think that might be the one that Jim strikes on, possibly. I think his name's Jim, but I just see I want to ask you, Mike.
We've got a number of other calls coming in here, so I appreciate the phone call. You can certainly call back anytime.
All right, thank you, Mark.
All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
The call will start at the beep.
All right, and who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's George.
Hey, George. Tearing up that live chat, aren't you?
Well, I quit after Titus said I thought you were leaving, just to be funny. Because I was watching a movie with Robert De Niro and some other guy. It was pretty good. But I was reading the chat and listening kind of during the commercials. Oh, man. I'm worried about the football season. That's an understatement.
And you're worried because of all these COVID tests coming back positive.
I'm worried because it's just an open-ended question. There's no proof of any of this. I mean, I drive around. I've got millions of friends, and all my friends have millions of friends, and not one of us has been affected by anything. And mostly it's people that are trapped in hospitals or trapped in a nursing home. It doesn't seem to be the general public. But and then on top of that, all of a sudden at this time in the world, we've decided to do a race war or something, you know? It just doesn't make any sense. My brain's like a computer and it's going, does not compute, does not compute. I don't get it.
Oh, boy, George, are we going to head down this path? Well, I certainly have my thoughts about
I don't want to go down that path. We can do football.
I certainly have my thoughts about race relations, but I was on here like 4 times talking about race relations, and I'm certainly the person that is.
Look, as far as race relations, Mark, I do want to say something. I never came on none of those shows.
Let me finish my statement,
I was
George.
raised in the deep South.
George,
If there was a race problem, I would know about it.
Let me finish my statement, and then you can say whatever you
Go
want.
ahead.
I just want to state
All right.
that I am far from the perfect human being, but if there's one thing I want in this world, it is for there to be equality, justice, and equal opportunity for everyone. You've got the floor.
Right.
Go right ahead.
Well, listen, even living in this messed up world we live in, I'm not saying it was perfect in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, or whatever, but I grew up in those years, in the deep South, in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. I even lived in Pittsburgh and saw the North. I would know if there was a serious problem. Now, I'll admit it. I've known some skinhead type people when I was in prison that talked the big game, but they never did shit about anything to anybody I ever saw. They just liked to tattoo their face. And I've known black people. I might have even been beat up one time by a black guy that really didn't like black people. But this is a very minor thing. It's very minor. It's like 0.02% of the population. And this is hurting me now because I've been friends with black people all my life, and all those black people that have been friends with me and my family, all of a sudden that just all goes by the wayside, out the window, doesn't mean nothing. All your good deeds, all your love, everything means nothing all of a sudden. We're going to listen to the stupid tube, the TV, and all of a sudden there's a problem. I mean, it happened in one day, all of a sudden, wham, one day there's a problem. And it happened at a time everybody's locked down at home and they can't go out of their house, and we're all supposed to wear masks, and we're all going to die of the plague. But these people are allowed to walk around in groups of 10,000, burn down a city, loot the stores, say kill the cops. I've even seen posters that said kill the white people and the police. That pisses me off because I look white. You know? Imagine somebody had the balls to put on a sign, kill all the black people and the police. How would that feel if you were black?
Wouldn't
and that's how I feel being white.
Yeah. Yep, there are
anyway,
double standards.
There
are double standards.
Everybody on this channel knows.
There's a mob
everybody on
mentality,
your
therefore
channel
there are
knows.
double
There's no race relations on Mark Rogers TV. Never came up once. No one ever said a sideways word on your channel after all these years. No one ever said a sideways word on Uncle Lou, Bobby Durkins, Pete, not on Alonzo's channel, not on anybody's channel. There's no race problem other than what the government instigates.
All right, we'll get back to football, George, but I'm certainly on, I don't want to say exactly the same page because we haven't talked extensively about it, but I certainly understand your points that there's an element out there, and some of it's political, some of it's for other reasons, out there to divide us. There are elements out there that want nothing but to divide people. Yes, there's no.
I know Hitler did this, and Lenin did it, and Stalin did it. Everybody does it. All the dictators that take over do this. You have to divide the country. There's the saying: "United we stand, divided we fall," and we're divided now. So I'm worried.
Yeah, there's a lot to worry about.
They control your food. They control your food. They control your electric. The bad guys control everything. You know, nobody ever wants to pick on the 800 richest people on Earth, the unnamed plan for the corporations that got an extra 600 trillion sitting around. It's not them. It couldn't be them. It must be a black guy and a white guy.
George, we've had our race relations conversations. We're going to talk college football tonight and forevermore.
Okay. I noticed in the chat section, there's some really, what is wrong with the Georgia fans? Why do they keep doing what they're doing? Why do they keep talking trash about Florida? We're doing good, and on the years we beat them and go to the playoffs, we haven't been there yet. In the previous years, we were likely to actually win the whole thing.
Sure.
They haven't done that since 1980, man. Why are they engaging like this as if they have a right to stand on a platform with us and act like they're cool like us? They ain't cool like us. We're due for a national title. They're 25, 30 years overdue.
You got it
All
right
they've
there.
done is buy a bunch of players.
They've got the bragging rights right now. If you're looking at national championships, yes. You have won 2 since you've won 3 since they won their
There's
last.
no bragging rights for what they've done.
There's no
You
bragging. Oh,
stockpile
whoa, come on. George. Bragging rights.
No,
They beat you how many consecutive years?
they have 35-star players. There's no excuse for sucking out the way they do.
Well,
They lost to South Carolina.
that's to their
Does
credit.
Ohio
That
State lose to South Carolina?
that's to their credit that they brought in that caliber of athlete to win the games.
No, that's called a bag man. Has nothing to do with coaching a football game. Does that happen to Urban Smart or Urban Meyer? No. Does it happen to Ryan Day? No. Does it happen to anybody? No. Only Kirby Dunn can pull that one off.
Okay. George, I'm going to back you on the national championship claim because it's obvious. You're in the right. You've won 3 national titles since they won their last. But in terms of what's going on right now and in recent past, Georgia's had a better program than Florida. That can't be debated. So they do have bragging rights.
Typically, they win 3, we win 3. That's typical history with us. So they haven't accomplished anything. If they win 4, then that's normally. Because generally it's 3. You don't get past 3 years beating the other team. So we'll see this year. And Jamie Newman played in the ACC. I saw the percentage, 3.33 versus 0.74. That's awesome. But I've watched the film. He has never been attacked like he's going to be attacked by a Southeastern Conference defense. I have zero confidence in Jamie Newman leading Georgia anywhere. He's going to be in shell shock after the first real game.
Well, I posted a video about Jamie Newman, and I certainly had those same points. He played 2 good defenses. He played Clemson.
Right.
I
remember that.
The number 1 defense in the country, but even Clemson was not the number 1 defense in the country. They just were statistically because they play in the worst conference. And then they played Michigan State. And Jamie Newman only went 12 of 27 against Michigan State. And those were the 2 really good defenses he played. And the rest of the defenses in the ACC weren't even in the top 40 in the country. And now he's going to be playing 6 top 25 defenses this year. Yes, I agree with that, but I don't know if he's going to be shell-shocked. I don't think he's going to be shell-shocked.
I'd give anything if we could stop right now and have a college football season and quit saying people have COVID and all this shit, because I would love to see this season play out just for the Georgia fans so I could talk smack to them. Because the video I watched about Jamie Newman, I saw yours too, but I was referring to a different one, and it really broke it down, and I just don't have a lot of confidence in him.
Yeah.
Plus, he's going into a new offensive coordinator, new scheme, new receivers, new practice. It doesn't bode well. Georgia started to dig last year at all.
5 stars? I guess it's possible.
Oh, wait a minute. That did Miami. Never mind.
Well, sure. Oh, man. All right, George. I appreciate it. And certainly, George, if we had channel where we did not talk college football all the time, I would love to hear your full-blown opinion, and I could talk about it for hours myself because I certainly
I would start out by explaining to people that aluminum airplane can't fly through steel girders and embed itself inside a building, and then the building falls down into its own footprint. That's for another day.
Okay. George, appreciate it.
Love you, man. Bye.
Incomparable George. There he is. Talking college. No, not talking college football. Oh, man. Care about what's going on, or we should. But we've got a college football channel here. The race situation has certainly bled into the college football, and I didn't think it was right for me to ignore it as a person that wants to make an impact, but also just in regards to college football being affected. So we addressed it, and most of you responded very positively in that you gave us credit for not skirting the issue, but flying right straight into the issue of race relations and dealt with it and heard from various opinions. We may talk about it in the future, but we are not going to be ranting and raving about social issues and political matters here. We talk college football. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mr. Rogers? This is J-Love T. Hello, good evening. How you doing, sir?
J-Love T. How are you?
I'm great, man. And thank you, God, for another day, man. I hope everybody's staying safe, you and their family.
Absolutely. Love to hear that that gratitude toward our Creator. Yes. Thank the good Lord for another day. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, I want to pick up where George left off, and I agree with him. And I think we had that conversation a couple weeks ago, and it's about Georgia.
Okay.
This let me just go on a 1 minute. I understand so a lot of percentage means everything to certain people. But in my opinion, and I consider it facts, it means nothing if you get all that talent and you do nothing with it. I understand I'm a Hurricanes and for the past 15 years, but when we were at our greatest, we won. You know how much I hate Florida State. But the main reason why I can respect those guys, when they were at their highest, they won it all. Why Georgia gets a pass where they just win? Because in my opinion, the highest and every year, but that gets boring. So, and my question is, why do you give Georgia the pass of elite and good? So how do you feel for my comeback to that?
Okay. So first of all, you're telling me that I give Georgia a pass.
Yes.
Okay. And that means what? I have told you what? That Georgia is what? You just said a good program?
Yeah, Georgia is elite, but they're not elite. They're not. You can't win. You can't be elite and don't win at all. As a college football program, you cannot be an elite football program and you don't win nothing. You have no trophies for it. None. That makes no sense to me. It's just like Ohio State. You're an Ohio State fan, and I'm sorry to put y'all on the spot, but let's be real. You have better like because you have the winning percentage and the championships. Now, would you feel the same way about Ohio State if you guys did all that and didn't win any championships behind it?
Well, sure. There's a reason you play. The reason you play any sport at this level is to win the championship. Okay?
Thank you.
Yes, that's number one. But let's understand that winning a college football championship involves all sorts of different politics and complexities that don't exist in other sports. Are you an NFL
fan? You have
fan?
to go through it.
J-Love T, are you an NFL? J-Love T, are you an NFL fan?
Yes, I'm a big NFL fan.
Okay,
I'm
you love the NFL.
Fan, period.
We don't argue about once the season's over and there's been a Super Bowl played. There's no argument over system and who should have been in and did they deserve or should they have been there, because there's a clear-cut objective system to who enters the NFL playoffs and who plays for the championship and then who earned the championship. That doesn't exist in college football. So the problem is, yes, all that matters is who wins the championship, but there is a huge political issue and agendas being driven as to who's selected to play for the championship. Okay?
Okay, correct. You're right about that. So for the past 20 years,
Yes.
Has there been a clear-cut objective on who should play in the national championship? For 20 years.
No.
And Georgia haven't won it in 40 years. 40 years. 40.
Okay. So let's get back to
How
Georgia.
many times Ohio State has won a championship for the past 50 years? How many times Miami has won a championship for the past 50 years? How many times Florida State has won a championship?
Many.
I mean, I understand, but that sounds like an excuse. And that's coming from me, a Hurricane fan, the king of excuses.
Okay. You also have to understand when you're making these arguments, are you talking about Georgia as a football program and the history of the program, or are you talking about Kirby Smart's program? Kirby Smart can't be held responsible for what happened in 1990.
You got to take Kirby. You got to take the whole history. The whole history. Because these Georgia fans are too cocky for no reason. You got to take the whole history from Kirby Smart on back. Why do we give Georgia a pass? Why do we act like Georgia?
I'm not giving Georgia a pass, but Kirby Smart has had them on the brink of winning a championship 3 consecutive years. And you did mention in your spiel off the top, your rant, you said, where's the conference championship? They did win a conference championship in 2017 and played in the national title game and took a tremendous Alabama program, the gold standard in college football, to overtime. They are there. No, they haven't closed the deal.
Yeah, I remember.
But it's not,
I remember.
it's not like Kirby Smart's been there for 15 years and we're still saying, well, where's the evidence? What's he done? No, he's been there for 4 years, and the last 3, they have been right there near the top of college football.
I understand, Mark, but you don't really. I mean, you don't get really rewarded for second place. I'm talking about winning it all, Mark. Winning it all. You gotta win it all.
So who's elite? Who's elite in college football?
Hello?
Who's elite in college football? J Love T.
In the history, everybody has to.
Right now, who's elite right now?
You can't go right. You can't do that, Mark. You can't. You gotta. If you do that, you gotta keep the whole history of college football. I feel like this is my opinion. Georgia fans cannot talk trash to Miami fans. Georgia fans cannot talk trash to Florida fans.
We're starting to lose you, J Love T. We're starting to lose you here. I haven't heard anything out of your mouth for the last 20 seconds. J Love T, calm down. Listen to me for a second, please. Your connection's getting worse and worse, so I haven't basically heard, and I'm sure anybody else, what you've said in the last minute.
Georgia fans have all these wins and have nothing to show for it. Yes, they went to the title game, but they lost.
Well, if you talk all of history, they have nothing to show for it.
Oh, that's what 48.
You were locked into national championships, and there is a huge discrepancy on national titles. I could sit here all night and tell you why national titles are certainly they're what everyone's striving for, but it's not a fair, objective system to determine who gets the opportunity to play for a national title. And I could go inaccuracies and the resumes that were left out of the playoff or the championship. Penn State. What do you do with Penn State? 1994, they won all their games. Are they not the national champion? No, because a bunch of voters said that they're not the national champion, even though they played in the Big Ten, maybe the best conference that year, and won all their games. Why aren't they the national champion? I could give you 100 examples like that, J Love T. I'm discrediting the national championship. Yes, that's why everyone plays. Everyone wants to win a national title, but I'm telling you, it's not a good system, and it never has been.
How many times Georgia has been in that discussion? How many times
have they been in the discussion?
For the 40 years that they've been on a national title because of the political system.
Well, they have been an elite. What they have been, what you could argue to be an elite program just for the last couple of years. Why do you have an axe to grind on Georgia? Don't get me wrong on Georgia. I'm not giving Georgia any free passes. They got to get. They're like Michigan. They've got to get it done. Kirby Smart has to get it done. He's being paid, and he's bringing in recruiting classes that are just crushing just about everybody. He's got to get it done, but he's only failed to get it done 3 times. And one of those times he came within an eyelash of winning a national championship with another coach's roster. And then the next year, he led the best team in college football by 2 touchdowns in the SEC title game. And sure, they blew it. And he's made, I was in an argument with Uncle Lou, who called a couple days ago in a call-in show, and I was taking actually the other side because he's going nuts because I wasn't rating Kirby Smart as one of the best 5 coaches in college football because he makes in-game decisions that are stupid. So I'm not giving Georgia a pass. I'm just saying they're one of in ancient history. And if you want to still cling to that, that's your right. Of course you can. You're a Miami fan. You could say we've got 5 national championships. We've got Georgia 5-1. You have absolutely every right. But I'm talking about the here and now. And there's no comparison between Georgia's program and Miami's program right now. I think we lost everybody. Is J Love T there? You still there with me?
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm there.
So what are we disconnecting on here, J Love T? Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, and then I'll let you talk. I was sometime today or late last night, whenever it was, constructing what I believe to be the tiers of college football. You know, this is tier 1, this is tier 2, etc. I did not put Georgia on tier 1. Put them on tier 2.
Okay.
Are they elite? I think that's a great argument. Is Georgia elite? I could go on and on for hours about why they could consider themselves elite, and I could give you other reasons why they can't. And one of them is exactly what you just said. They haven't closed the deal in forever.
So how many teams are in tier 1? 10, 16?
Tier 1? 3.
Yeah. How many teams in tier 1?
3.
3? Wow,
3.
that's short.
That's
short.
Nobody right now is touching Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State.
At all. Yeah, you're right.
And I put Oklahoma and Georgia as the only 2 tier 2 teams. I haven't finished it yet. I still got to work it out and think about it and construct a reason why. I was just spitballing right now. And then my tier 3 is pretty big. You know, a lot of Auburn, Florida, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, that level.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that. It's tier 1. Wow, 3 teams. Alabama, Florida State. Okay. So where would you put LSU?
See, LSU's. Oh, I'm sorry. I put LSU on tier 2. So LSU.
Okay, you took Oklahoma off.
Yeah,
right?
I'm sorry. I got it right here. LSU. I got Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU on tier 2. Because look at LSU's. They're kind of they're a tough one to place because in 2019 they were tier 1. They were the best team in college football. Sure, a lot of us would have loved to have seen Ohio State play them, but most likely LSU was the team. They won it all. They won all their games. They played the toughest schedule, but I can't give them a tier 1 just for one season. After losing 3 and 4, they have not lost less than 3 games since 2011 up until last year. So for games, I can just be boom, you're elite. They got to follow that up.
Correct.
They got to be consistent.
They shouldn't be in tier 1, but they should definitely be in tier 2 ahead of Oklahoma. I mean,
well, yeah,
that's my opinion.
Yeah. Oklahoma's been more consistent for a longer period of time, but LSU's got to deal with the tougher league, and they dominated Oklahoma, crushed Oklahoma last year, and won the national title. And Oklahoma's not done that since 2000. Yep.
That's fire. Well, I think it was great debating with you, Mark, and I probably lost this one. Maybe I'll get it next time. You never know.
Hey, J Love T, you're great.
Guys, stay safe.
I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. All right. That was a good one from J Love T. It's good to get the blood circulating a little bit. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark.
I was basically saying, and Before I continue, DeAndre, hang on just 2 seconds. I want to apologize to everybody out there. It seems like my transmission kind of freezes every so often. But anyway, hang with us. We got 73 on the line. Yeah, thanks for the call, DeAndre. And I want to mention is BGPO Football Funk. BGPO Football Funk. Get on YouTube right here and subscribe to DeAndre's channel. And thanks for the super chat, DeAndre. So, no, I didn't compare them except to say, so the caller was criticizing me for giving Georgia too much credit. And I gave all the reasons why Georgia's doing a great job. But at the same time, I was saying, yes, Kirby Smart has only had them at a near elite level for 3 years. So give the guy some time. Now, if we're sitting here in 5 years, it hasn't got done, then that will be a different story. I said, yes, just like Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, he has to get it done. That was my only comparison, is that basically Georgia's done everything that they can do. They've gone to a national title game. They've won the SEC. They've got to close the deal and get it done. Michigan's got to get it done. Right. But, yeah, Michigan's not at Georgia's level, either on the field or in recruiting. And for them, they just got to get past Ohio State before they can even get close to getting it done nationally. You know, they just got to get to a Big Ten championship game. You know, it would be a positive step if they beat Ohio State this year and then lost to like Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game. So, yeah, they're not there yet.
Oh, okay. I can't stand Michigan. But anyway, I'm about to ask you about somebody. How good is Alabama defense? I hear everybody talking about them. Are they going to be that good this year? I mean, I know Alabama's loaded. Don't get me wrong. They top, 3 recruiting classes over the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Like that?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think in our conversations with my man, Stephen M. Smith. He's broken down their roster for us. And yeah, they have lost a lot less NFL talent in this draft class than they usually do. They're returning most of their talent on defense. They are. Yeah. And, of course, their recruiting class, as you said, was loaded. But we're doing roster breakdowns on everyone. We'll get to Alabama.
Well, yeah. I just shocked to hear everybody talking about. I mean, I know Tua and Ruggs and them are beasts, but you know, everybody's talking about them like they're going to run away with the SEC, which they might, because I like the quarterback and what he showed last year outside of 2 pick sixes versus Auburn.
Yeah,
I think he's pretty good.
One of them wasn't his fault.
Yeah, I got to check off some on the end, right?
What's that, man?
So they took off money in those two pick sixes, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna see what he's gonna do because I like Alabama. I like what they're doing over there. I mean, this is TC is gonna be really tough this year. But Bama, I think Auburn's gonna be much improved. Florida, Georgia. I'm interested to see how Georgia and Ohio State's going to make it through their schedules, because their schedules are so tough. I mean, Ohio State, if they play the Oregon game, I mean, that's one tough game on the road.
Yep.
They have fans in there. And then you got, what's that? Georgia seems like I think they go to Alabama this year. And then they still got to play Florida and Auburn. I mean, that's a tough schedule to go. There's another team that I was interested in. And one team I'm worried about, not worried about them, but is Georgia Tech going to be able to show any improvement this year with their schedule? I think they have, not from what I've seen. From what I've seen, I think they got the toughest schedule in all the football this year.
Georgia Tech does.
I don't know. Yeah.
Why is their schedule so? They obviously play Georgia. Who else do they play out of conference?
Central, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we talked about how good Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Miami have a chance to be. So those
Sure.
three.
And they play Clemson.
Right. So that's 5 losses right there. I mean, I'm just saying, I know they beat Miami last year. Like I said, that's 5 tough games. I mean, Duke, I think is on their schedule. Then they play Louisville too. So, I mean, that's a heck of a schedule coming up here for them. So, I don't think they're going to be able to show any improvement. Even they could probably be better this year. So, I'm kind of interested in seeing what they were going to do. But that's a hard schedule, especially even in the beginning. And you're trying to break. The only game I could see them winning outright is probably going to Will. And it's Virginia might be a win. Oh, they play Notre Dame also, Mark.
Oh, so they got Notre Dame, UCF, and Georgia. Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Out of conference, yeah.
And and then they are, like I said, they got Carolina and Virginia Tech back to back. To put it like this, back to back, they got Central Florida, Carolina, Virginia Tech, Virginia. We don't know how good they're going to be this year. And Pitt, all 5 in a row. And like I said, you never know Pitt, they're a wild card. Syracuse, you got to think they're going to bounce back. And like I said, Notre Dame, Miami, and Georgia Tech and Georgia to end the year. So that's 3 tough games. And Duke always put up a good fight. They might have a 7-16 or 6-16, somewhere around there. That's a pretty brutal schedule to start the season off with.
Yes. You're making me want to do what I typically do, and that's rank all the schedules, which I don't think I'm going to get to this year. I usually rank the schedules, but
off top of your head, can you think of any schedule harder than that?
Oh, off the top of my head, well, the only reason I wouldn't rank Georgia Tech high would be, I'm going to rank them high, but of course they play in the worst division, or either the ACC Coastal or the Pac-12 South, one of those two. But as you mentioned, their crossover screws them because they got Clemson every year. And then if you take Louisville as probably the second best team in the division, wow.
Well, they don't have Louisville. They don't have Louisville. That was my mistake.
Oh, I thought you said Louisville.
They have
Syracuse.
Yeah, I did.
I don't think Syracuse is going to bounce back. I just don't see it.
Right.
But anyway, Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Notre Dame, UCF. Yeah, it's a very difficult schedule. I got to think that there are a few tougher ones in the SEC, but not many.
Yeah, probably so.
Maybe I'm going to rank schedules now. Man, I love doing that, but doesn't seem like too many people are interested. So,
well, yeah, but yeah, that's a real tough one. But I don't know who in the SEC. Maybe Alabama's schedule because of there's the fact they had to play LSU and Georgia, Auburn, and allegedly Tennessee's supposed to be good this year.
Yeah, and who is Alabama's big out of conference game this year? I'm drawing a blank. USC.
Oh yeah. So their schedule's up there. So that's pretty good. I was I'm gonna let you go after this one. But we were talking about Carolina. They play James Madison. I don't know how much you keep up with the lower levels, but James Madison is probably one of the top non-bowl subdivision teams in the country. So
sure.
That would be very interesting too, because after they start off with Auburn and Central Florida, they play James Madison. Then I think they're going to another tough game after that. So we hoping that Carolina be good this year, but you got 3 hard games.
I know, and that's why I was telling Cam Underwood during our Miami show the other night that that's going to be fascinating to see how North Carolina plays against those two teams.
Right.
It's going to be fascinating. And as you well know, when you bring up James Madison, they beat a ranked Virginia Tech team. What was that? Maybe 12 or 13 years ago?
Right. Yeah, they beat somebody else recently. And they always, well, that was East Carolina. Well, that don't really count. Now East Carolina nowadays doesn't count, but East Carolina probably on the same level as James Madison. I hate to say it, but it's true because both of them get a big amount of transfers in. But yeah, but James Madison's probably pretty good this year. I mean, because they get a lot of transfers from other schools, so we're gonna see how it turns out. But Mark, I'll let somebody else call in, man. Thanks. Hopefully one day me, you, and Pete and Bobby can get up again.
Oh, that was fun. I would do that on a regular basis if you guys were up for it.
Yeah, it's just hard with this Sunday because we're being Father's Day.
Yeah.
I know, and happy early Father's Day to you and everybody in the chat that got kids out there.
Thank you so much, DeAndre. Same to you, sir.
All right, you take care.
Have a great night.
All right.
That's our man, DeAndre. Football Funk's his channel. PGP Football Funk. DeAndre loves coming on here to talk Clemson, the ACC, and we also talk the 80s and 90s in college football. I'm way behind in the live chat because I'm focusing on these phone calls and because you guys are delivering some good content there in the live chat. So I'll catch up here, hopefully at some point. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, Reasonable Gump here. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I noticed some people in the live chat here discussing your tier rankings that you made off the top of your head. Well, some people seem to have a problem with your Ohio State one that because their rationale they only won the title in 2014. They apparently seem to be completely forgetting that Ohio State has won the Big Ten almost every year since then and has gone close to undefeated a couple times as well.
Yeah, so
not really sure what's going on there.
Prior to last season, depending on how you, and I'm not saying my tier system is infallible, of course. I'm just throwing it out there. And again, I'm starting to spitball, but I'm not going to come off of that. That Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State tier is not going to change. The other ones may, but I can say right now definitively that won't change. Now, I could understand the perspective prior to last season that there was only one tier one, that being Alabama and Clemson. Then Ohio State would be kind of by themselves on a tier two, or the lead team on the tier two. I could understand that. I would still have rated Ohio State on a tier one before last season, but I could understand that perspective. Now that Alabama had, for them, a down season and Ohio State was as good as they were last year, I'm ranking that as this is what's going on with college football right now.
Mm-hmm. I think some Oklahoma fans may have an argument saying, hey, we've been dominating our conference for as long as Ohio State has. Why aren't we up there? And I would probably say, you know what? The only thing missing is a national title. Win one title and you're in tier one.
Yeah, and be competitive. Be competitive.
Well, I mean, Ohio State was competitive this last time, but they got annihilated the time before that.
They got annihilated once.
Right. And then they weren't even in it the next couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm just comparing that. When you tell Oklahoma to be competitive, they're going to be like, well, why don't you make the playoffs? You want to tell us to be competitive.
Well, and then, my response to them is give me an objective playoff system, and maybe we would have different teams in the playoffs. Anybody can get sold. Yeah.
So, Mark, what an 18 playoff would that basically just make you happy in every way? Would you consider that as objective, fairly as you can get? 8 teams, 5 automatic, and 3 wild cards.
I love it. Absolutely.
We're both in agreement there.
You could even give me a group of 5 if they met a certain criteria. Maybe one loss.
One of those criteria would have to be that there's no other deserving Power 5.
Well, you'd have to clarify what that would mean.
Well, it's just the problem I just have is, and what we all love the Boise States and the Central Florida cases and stuff. You're just never going to get past the fact that they're not subjecting their players and their team to the same kind of risk as Power 5 teams, with the exception of Clemson, are doing. Yeah, are they capable of coming into a playoff and winning, one given Saturday? Sure.
Maybe.
But they're not having to do that all season long.
True.
If you wanted
Yes.
my take, I think the Group of 5 should be like the FCS and have their own playoff system. I think Group of 5 teams are stuck in limbo.
Yes.
They have nowhere to go.
Yes.
They don't have their own playoff, but they're never going to be given the chance to win it all in the big leagues.
And that's why I have claimed many times, and you've probably heard me say this a number of times, that even ranking their teams is a bit of a farce, because actually having a ranking and including teams gives the illusion, and you're basically sending the message that anybody can be ranked anywhere within those rankings. That if you're capable of being ranked 24th or 14th, then we are considering you in our rankings. Therefore, you could be ranked to number 1. Well, that's not the case. That's a farce. They're not going to make the playoffs. They've served up an undefeated team. They didn't make the playoff. And so it's even a farce ranking them to a certain extent, including them in the rankings. And you're right. They either need to be given one place at the table, an opportunity, or I'm okay with saying, go play your own playoff, and the Power 5 will play its playoff.
Right. And that doesn't, I'm not saying that takes away interplay between the two, between Group of 5 and Power 5. I mean, some Power 5 teams still schedule FCS teams.
Yep.
Not that I agree with that. I think that's kind of wrong, just to prostitute these players out for a paycheck for the school. But, I'm not saying, if you guys still want to do that during the regular season, fine. But, yeah, I mean, I think they should have their, everyone gets to be, national title in their deal.
My criteria would be for them something like this. And I'm just spitballing, so this isn't the final decision, but something like this. They have to win a conference championship. They have to go through the season having lost only one game, and they need to have played 2 Power 5s out of their 4 non-conference schedule and win one of those 2 games. Something like that. I would give them some level of criteria that they would have to meet, and it would include having to beat a Power 5 team in the non-conference schedule. Something like that.
Well, what I did, I thought I'd come here and just give you a short little topic to talk about after listening to that 2 callers before. That guy just go crazy on you about Georgia and their apparently lack of national titles. So, I know, or everyone who watches your channel knows you're not the biggest fan of the way college football has handled national titles in its history.
Yes.
So instead of trying to break that down with you, which I would actually love to do one of these things, I think that would be an excellent video series that we could go through since the 20s and go every year through and just see, who got it, who claimed one, was it legit, and who's missing a ring this year. I think that would be fascinating.
So I did that last off season. I went through about 5 years last off season. I should repost those videos.
But so I'm assuming, being an Ohio State fan, you're familiar with all of the ones that they claim.
Sure, and they claim some bogus ones. I can think of one in particular. Maybe only one bogus one.
So I was just going to ask, if you apply today's criteria right now, our modern way of thinking,
yes,
which one? And by the way, after I ask you, I'm going to do the same with Alabama. But I'm just curious, which one or ones do you think are bogus and they should write off?
So there's a difference between ones that are bogus versus ones in which they are legitimate, but there are other teams that have a legitimate claim as well. So Ohio State has some of those where there's nothing wrong with their claim. Their claim is legit, but there are also other teams that could say, we have a legit claim as well. The bogus ones in 1970, when they were undefeated,
they lost
the number one team in the country, but then they lost to Jim Plunkett and Stanford in the Rose Bowl by 10 points. Yes.
Right.
And I don't know if the school claims that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think they do. 1970,
Yeah, they do.
Okay, they shouldn't.
The NCAA also recognizes it.
Yeah, that's dumb. It's just dumb.
I'm trying to think. That was still before they started counting the championship after the bowl, after the postseason. So I think that's why they were allowed to keep it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't consider the bowl games part of it. So when I look at Alabama's, everyone for some reason always wants to say half of them are dumb, and so that's just nonsense. The first one, the stupidest one, obviously, is not. If you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Alabama's title history.
I've seen the list and the claims, but I don't remember them.
So I'll go and say the stupidest one that I'm honestly embarrassed that we still claim it is 1941. We were 9-2. We lost 2 games and we claim a national title.
Sure.
Granted, we won the Cotton Bowl, but who cares? So that's a bad one. And then we have 2 more cases it's the exact same kind of case with yours. We were undefeated. Went in 1964. We went and lost the Rose Bowl. The Orange Bowl. And I don't think that wasn't the Texas. Yeah, that was a Texas one. The loss. And then actually in 1973, and this is the one where I think they changed and started awarding the titles after the game. Was we lost by 1 point to Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, but we were still awarded a title before that game. Those are, by the way, the only ones. Every single other one we won. We won the first four. We won the game ball as well.
I started watching college football just after that. Like 1977, 78 was my time to start just diving in and just full throttle, got entrenched just out of nowhere. I went from zero fan to crazy, memorizing box scores right out of the gate. So I missed all that, but I just can't imagine growing up as I did, as you did, with the fervor of New Year's Day being, this is the day, of thinking, well, the season's over and these are just a bunch of really good teams playing each other as some kind of exhibition. Like it just seems ridiculous.
It is kind of hard. It's kind of weird to think, how they really used to think like that. Which is kind of strange if you do, because a lot of people I've seen comment that, the titles back in 1920s and 30s don't count. Well, if you think about that for 2 seconds, you'll realize how dumb that is, because back then, before all the AP and the coaches of poll and their criteria came, back then we actually, in 1920s and 30s, we had a de facto national title game. It was called the Rose Bowl. It was actually more similar to what we have now. It was actually, when things started getting muddled up, was more toward the middle of the 90s and onward to the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So the quote unquote ancient national titles were actually more legit than most of the 90s, at least if you ask me.
You and some other callers get me fired up on these historical topics that I love to break down, and then I want to just hit the pavement, start researching to fill in. I generally know what the history is, but then get the specifics and then start breaking it down and post videos on it. That's what I love to do. But national championship.
Anyway,
yes. Yes, like I was trying to point out to the caller J Love T about Georgia. The point I was trying to make is, yes, if I was if I suddenly was handed a major football program tomorrow to be the head coach, yes, our goal would be to win the national championship, and that would be because I understand that's what everyone's looking at, and that's where the value is by the fans and the media and everybody else. That's what it's been built up to. But I still think it's sketchy. It's not completely valid. And that's not to say that the team that wins the national title is the 17th best team in the country. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't like the system. I think it's completely valid. And it could be done better. It just could be better. It's better than it used to be, but it could be better.
Well, like I said before, I was like, why do we have to take baby steps toward this? Why can't we just leap to the right spot, which is have an 8-team playoff? Why do we have to go through like where they just pick a team before the ball game and say you're it, and then they moved up to, well, okay, let's see if we can't match up who we think is the 1 and 2. Alabama, you look pretty good. Miami, yeah, you guys duke it out the Sugar Bowl. And then we moved to the BCS, and now we finally got a more of a popularity system than a playoffs stuff.
Yeah.
But
as you well know, yeah, it's just hilarious to dive back into the old bowl system before the BCS and see some of these matchups, and you're just like, why could they not have just? And I understand the tradition said that the conferences were linked to the various bowl games, but it's just ludicrous to see some of these bowl matchups, and then there had to be comparison made via vote.
the most recent ludicrous bowl matchups, I'm pretty sure I called and was whining about it to you like the day it was made 2 years ago, was when they put Florida and Michigan against each other again, like third time in 3 years.
Yes.
And then they put LSU against Central Florida, which is also dumb. Everyone wanted to see Florida and Central Florida play for this whole narrative of Central Florida is the best team in the state.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. That'll be cool.
And I also, Reasonable Gump, see, I was one of the few people that actually wanted to see the other game more. LSU and Michigan have never been on the same field together. So from a historical standpoint, you're talking about two great programs, of course, all time. I wanted to see LSU and Michigan play, too. But no, we played the teams that have already played.
I was hoping more for that time. I'm not sure if this was possible with like the bowl criteria or their selections and stuff, but Georgia went to the Sugar Bowl that year, and I'm not sure if Texas had to go there, but I would have liked to have seen Michigan on the field with Georgia that year, because it would have been like the battle of the second place.
Well,
Georgia was second place in the SEC. Michigan, I think, for all intents and purposes, was second place in the Big Ten.
Yeah, so the Sugar now is an SEC Big 12 matchup.
Is it? I thought it was still just only claimed by the SEC and then one other selection.
No, it's been the Big 12 since the playoff. So you think about all the Big 12
teams. Is the Big 12 no longer with the Fiesta then?
No, so if you look at the Big 12, what was it this past year? It was Georgia Baylor. So that matchup did nothing for me.
Me neither.
And then you, of course, Georgia, Texas. So since with Oklahoma making the playoff, you keep having this Big 12 championship game loser play. Going back to Ole Miss playing Oklahoma State in 2015, you had an Auburn Oklahoma game in 2016. Yeah. So every year it's been the SEC.
Ole Miss really make the Sugar Bowl in 2015?
2015, yes. One of the years they beat Alabama. And it wasn't 2014 because they played TCU in the Peach Bowl. And I think this even goes back to, Alabama, Oklahoma might have been the first year of it in 2013. So it's been going on for a while.
So is hold on a second.
No, I can't say. Is the Big 12 no longer like associated with the Fiesta Bowl then? Because that's where they used to always send the team.
Sure. Well, who's played in the Fiesta Bowl?
Here, I'm looking 2010. Some Clemson and Ohio State. Well, that was playoffs. So 2019, LSU and UCF in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah,
so I guess not. It must just be random. Penn State and Washington. There's two other completely other different conferences.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. It's just a selection process. It's,
there you go.
Odd.
I think that's dumb. So Sugar Bowl will always be one of these two conferences now.
Yeah, at least for however long they've made that agreement. I don't know why that was so necessary that we've got this matchup in the Sugar Bowl between the SEC and the Big 12. Like, we can't just have an SEC, most likely going to be the second place team because the champion's going to go to the playoff, play the, a really good team elsewhere. Why does it have to be out of the Big 12? Just, yeah. And then the Fiesta has no tie-in. Yeah. All right, man.
Well, man, hey, that's all I got tonight. We'll be calling to say hey.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about some national titles. You know, I'm an Alabama fan, so that's my favorite topic.
Always appreciate it. Yeah, it's always a good time. Thanks, man.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Reasonable Gum, getting the job done. Oh, we can start college football history here for on and on and on. And then you guys bring stuff up, and then it makes me think, okay, man, I got to yak on that. But part of the problem here is what I want to produce for content and for what many of you want to hear me talk about is break down some things that I know a lot about, like the history of college football, versus what people are going to watch are two different things. So what I'm seeing constantly is people like to see Ohio State and Michigan. My last Nebraska video did very well with over 15,000 views. And you guys, even though we get in great discussions and debates about college football history and ranking teams and conferences and all that, maybe not a whole lot of people watch it. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Lamar Stevens. How you doing, man?
Hey, Lamar. Thank you so much for the contribution tonight, Lamar. I have yet to get that to the screen, but I appreciate that more than you know.
Oh, yeah. Anytime I see you working your nerves, it's kind of felt for you there.
Well, thank you. What's on your mind tonight?
Just like looking at the top 10 and kind of thinking that there actually isn't as much separation between number 1 and number 10 as there normally is.
Okay.
Last season, the top maybe 3 teams, top 4 teams, pretty clear. Like none of the other teams below that top 3 threshold was losing to anybody outside of the group. Would you agree? Clemson, Ohio State, LSU. You can even, I think, Bama with the healthy Tua, if that was a 4th team, those 4 teams could beat anybody in the country, including each other.
You just hit on what my point was going to be, is there is typically a difference between who generally is considered the best teams versus who earned a playoff spot. I mean, Oklahoma earned its playoff spot. I had no issue with that. They clearly won it. They were the lone champion with 1 loss. Boom. Yes, they should be the team selected. But Alabama, with a healthy Tua especially, I take them hands down against Oklahoma on the same field. If we're just talking, forget the records, forget who won what, just who were the best teams. I'm in Alabama's camp over Oklahoma, but Oklahoma earned the playoff spot.
Right. I think we kind of agree there. Like those 4 teams.
Yep.
Of course, Bama was the healthy Tua.
For the first time last year was clear cut, which doesn't do good for my channel. I had nothing to rant rave about last year. So your point is, I'll clarify, are you looking at last year's final top 10 or you're looking at this year's preseason top 10?
So I'm looking at this year's preseason top 10,
Okay.
and in comparison to last season's, I don't think that. Right, who's preseason number 1 right now? Is it Clemson?
Yes.
What the cool kids are saying? All right, so the cool kids are saying Clemson is preseason number 1. I'm looking at Clemson's defense, and I'm thinking, man, I hope they don't run into a good passing team, which they're probably not going to. So is that what people are taking into account when they're saying, like, okay, so there's clearly a separation between 1 and 2 and everybody else, or 1, 2, and 3 and everybody else. And like, if everybody else represents the top 10, if Clemson ever ran into like an Oklahoma State or something with a Talon Wallace and a Chuba Hubbard, or if they ran into a team with a competent passing attack, if they ran into Minnesota could beat Clemson. I wouldn't be surprised about that.
Minnesota could beat Clemson.
It's just that it wouldn't happen.
No, I hear you, and my claim would be, so I always think of things in bulk, meaning, could Minnesota beat Clemson? Yes. Pitt beat Clemson in 2016, a national championship Clemson team. Of course, Syracuse beat a Clemson team that went to the playoff. North Carolina State, had they had a competent field goal kicker, would have made a 30-yard field goal in overtime, would have beaten Clemson a year that they went to the national title game as well in 2016 and won the title. So yes, could this 11-2 Minnesota team beat Clemson? Yeah, they put on North Carolina came within a 2-point conversion, and they weren't nearly as good as Minnesota. So I agree with you, but I think of things in bulk. Clemson wins that game 9 out of 10 at least. But sure, Minnesota is capable of pulling it off if everything breaks right. Yes.
I said Minnesota, not just because of the record, but because of their personality.
Yes.
They're kind of a passing team right now.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a great receiver, maybe another great receiver. I'm not sure if that really good quarterback, maybe the second best quarterback in the defense.
Yep, I agree.
And a team like that, a team like that's competent passing the ball. If you're going to be putting Nick Skowski, Bailey Spector, if you're going to be putting Brent Venables' kid on the field, they lost both their safeties last season. I don't like that secondary. Flat out, I just, they lost AJ Terrell. They have, a guy that converted from receiver. He was pretty good at corner. And I'm not just trying to, way to come up with how the secondary has good recruits, but it's a lot of potential in that secondary, and potential, gets beat by Purdue on any given Saturday.
Yes.
I mean, if you don't have the skins on the wall already.
So your original point, Lamar, is that the gap between 1 and 10 is closer than it's been in a long time, and you're looking at Clemson.
I don't know about a long time. Closer than people make it out to be.
So who's number 10 in the rankings? Who's in that 8 to 12 range? Are you looking at it right now? I don't have it in front of me.
I can be looking at it in 10 seconds.
Yeah, that 8 to 12 range. So we just don't have one team to look at, but 8 to 12 or so, something in that range.
Oh, come on. Do you have the capability of pulling it up? Are we working at the same time?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Are we working at the same time, or is it all?
No. I gave up. I was giving it to you.
Okay, I'm going for it. Let's go with good old Google. CFB top 10 or top 25. That works. All right, so we got Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and this is Sporting News.
Okay.
It's just the first one that came up. It's fair enough to me. All right, let's start from 10. That's really take a look at it. All right, so I'm looking at Florida. Brings back a proven quarterback. no returning receivers. I think all transferred back from Miami, former five-star guy. They replaced their whole offensive line. So, you know, of course, if they're a number 10 team, there's going to be things wrong with them. But they've got a lot of things going for them as well. Penn State's number 9 on this list. Notre Dame's number 8. Their quarterback's been there since 1997 or something. He's been there for a long time now.
Yep.
Ian Book beat LSU in a Citrus Bowl or something a few years ago. Danny Etling.
Yep.
Last second pass.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oklahoma's number 7.
Yeah.
Oregon's number 6. Oregon, I think Oregon is sneaky the best team in the country. Hot take.
Oregon's the best team in the country.
Yeah, that's my hot take. I look at what Oregon has on the defense side of the ball, what they brought back, the production, and also the star power. Now, you know, star power is one thing. The star power to me is just potential. But if you got star power and you bring guys back that have that same star power and they produced last season, they bring back a lot of pass deflections, a lot of interceptions, a lot of tackles for loss. Kayvon Thibodeau, you know, all-world. I think he was number 1 recruit in the country, defensive end. Like, Clemson's not bringing that. Well, they've got guys. Wow, they're not bringing that. Even them, Armor Davis, and oh gosh, the names of their safeties escape me. But you know, I saw those guys play last year. Those same safeties. They lost Trayvon Diggs. I'm talking about Alabama right here. They get back Dylan Moses. So yeah, they're strong. Don't get me wrong. But not any team is beating Alabama. Most teams aren't beating Alabama. But if you can pass, you can play good defense. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa not walking out of that locker room. Them is not as good as they were last year. Clemson's not as good as they were last year.
Well,
Clemson's kind of close, though. They do bring back the quarterback and they do bring back the running back.
What I'll say about Oregon, and certainly Mario Cristobal has out-recruited everyone in the conference, is that they've gotten to a place with their program that they are reloading, but they do lose an NFL quarterback. They do lose 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. They do bring back arguably the best offensive lineman in the country, but they lose 4 others. And if you really look at what they did last year, sure, it's an accomplishment to win the Pac-12 and win the Rose Bowl, but man, they barely got in the Rose Bowl. They needed some Wisconsin mistakes to win the Rose Bowl, and they barely had 200 yards of total offense in that Rose Bowl. And in their other big non-conference matchup, they lost to Auburn, a team that lost 4 games. So I'm not really sold on Oregon being the best team in the country.
Well, that's fine. Listen, I didn't expect you to.
But
100% agree. I can make a case.
You can't make a legitimate case. I'm not laughing you off the air by any stretch, Lamar. I do like your point. I would like to see some other points made and some possible number 1 teams and national title contenders out of the teams that we talk about constantly, the 3 or 4. So
Penn State is interesting to me because uniquely, they are uniquely similar to 2018 LSU, last year's Penn State team. You know, they're bringing back Michael Parsons. Parsons reminds me of Devin White.
okay.
The way that they play offense, they ran the ball a lot, and they didn't pass the ball with a lot of efficiency. Yeah, it sounds like 2018 LSU, but they won. You know, they won a lot of games. What were they? 10-3, maybe even 11-2.
Oregon, yes, 11-2.
Oh, I'm talking about Penn State now.
Oh, Penn State last year, 11-2. Yeah.
All right, so Penn State was 11-2 last season. 2018 LSU was 10-3. They beat a Group of 5 team in their bowl game, Memphis. And LSU in 2018 beat a Group of 5 team in their bowl game too. It was kind of weird when I was looking at the stats because I was wondering why everybody was still on Penn State. This team really reminds me of the 2018 LSU team that everybody thought was going to go 6-6.
Well,
when I look at their offensive production, like how many yards per pass they were getting, and what they were giving up on defense, there was a lot of similarities.
Well, Sean Clifford's going to have to play a hell of a lot better to be Joe Burrow. And, of course, Burrow did, but they had an offensive system that came out of nowhere at LSU, and I don't know that Penn State's going to be that innovative. And Sean Clifford has the arm talent in terms of being able to throw velocity NFL throws, but I don't know if he made the right decisions or was as accurate a passer. He wasn't as he needs to be. He had bad games against the best teams.
It was frustrating watching Penn State last season. I watched Penn State playing against Ohio State. Mind you, I was a little bit jaded after, when you watch LSU last season and you go like from seeing a guy who completes 3 passes for every 1 pass he throws incomplete, and then you watch the Penn State game against Ohio State, who had a great secondary, you get frustrated. Why is the ball hitting the ground so much? What's going on here? Mm-hmm. Everybody doesn't just complete every pass they throw. So, then they had some quarterback injuries going on too. So it was a tough situation. But, they kind of hung in the game for a little while. I just thought whenever they had an opportunity to actually challenge in the game, they would make mistakes or they would just, let it go in vain. They would waste it. You guys had a chance there.
Okay, Lamar.
But I don't think Penn State could. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, anything else?
Okay, well, yeah, that's just my point. I just kind of felt like the top 3 team, they're great teams. They're definitely ahead of the other ones. And when you look at it in bulk the way that you said, but I do think that I don't know if there's so much separation between them and the rest of the top 10. Like not like last year. Last year was a clear separation, and this year I feel like a lot of these teams could get beat.
Mm-hmm. Well, what LSU accomplished in the potency of its offense, I don't know that we're going to see. We haven't seen it. We've seen those kind of numbers posted, but we haven't seen those kind of numbers posted against top teams. So,
well, that's been my biggest point about LSU. Last season's LSU, everybody says LSU 100% agree, but no one's clarifying what they're taking a step back from. Like, are you taking a step back from just being a top 5 team, or are you taking a step back from being one of the best teams in college football history? They beat Clemson, who was, a great team. They beat Clemson by 17, and they had them in victory formation. Mm-hmm. They pulled out victory formation basically in every game the whole season. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's a good point. They did play close games, though, against Auburn, Texas, and Alabama, of course.
Well, they were kind of close. They were close, but I'm an LSU fan. I've seen a close game. I remember LSU playing against Auburn in 2018, and Joe Burrow had to make a freaking pass where it looked like he had his eyes closed when he threw the ball. Mm-hmm. That was close.
I remember what game you're
talking about. He had to get pass interferences.
Sure. On the
he had to get pass interferences just to try to win on a last-second field goal.
Yeah, to your point, those were all one-score games. But yes, LSU, all those teams that lost those games had to score late to make it a one-score game.
Yeah, this season I was sitting back drinking beers. I wasn't worried about anything. It was weird. I couldn't even. Usually, I'm on message boards arguing with people. I didn't have anything to argue about. Not much all season.
Yeah.
I almost didn't like it.
And that was a national championship run. You know, anybody who wins a national championship in this era and has to go through a conference championship game and 2 really tough opponents in the playoffs earns a national title. But man, that team earned it multiple times going through that schedule. It wasn't like a Clemson deal where they play a weak ACC and then they win 2 playoff games.
It kind of skewed the you know, what difficulty means. So when people say LSU's going to take a step back, yeah, they're going to take a step back, but they're still a top 10 team.
Sure.
They're taking a step back from a team that they beat Texas A&M by 43 points. Clemson and Georgia played Texas A&M, and you know, I think Clemson beat them by maybe 14, and Georgia beat them by maybe a similar score, like 14 or so.
Yeah, I think they beat them by the game was like 17-12 or something like that. It was a pretty close game, the Georgia game.
Yeah, so like, you know, I was kind of saying, oh, maybe Texas A&M's kind of good. And Kellen Mond went 10 for 30 against LSU, 33% completion percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, you know, people are kind of saying that he's one of the best returning quarterbacks in the SEC. That's another reason I'm kind of like, I feel like this season's college football is kind of like a down year. Because if you're saying a guy like that is one of the best returning quarterbacks in the SEC, then there must not be very many great quarterbacks in the SEC. People are like high on Bo Nix too. Like, what did Bo Nix do?
Well, I don't think it's a good year for quarterbacks in the SEC. It was very difficult for me to make a top 5, but I think there's a lot of parity in the quarterback play. I think you can go 7 or 8 deep with decent quarterbacks, but Kyle Trask is being considered by most to be the best quarterback in the league.
He had some good games. They weren't against Georgia, but he had some good ones. He had a good one against LSU. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I'll let you go. I just, you know, wanted to chop it up.
No, I appreciate it, Lamar. Thank you so much. Great call, and yeah, join us anytime.
Good night, you guys.
All right, folks, here's the deal. So we're going to do an exclusive live stream next Thursday night. So that's June 25th at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So what I'm looking for here is for anybody who wants to take part in the exclusive live stream, if you want to be a guest, come on here, talk to me, have your picture shown just like any other guest that I have. Fill in the blank, Cam Underwood, or our Florida State live show with Logan Robinson and Jason Parker and Big James Coleman. So you're going to come on here and talk college football with me. Hopefully we'll have like 3 or 4 of us in the boxes just kicking around college football, just having a good time. Whatever you want to talk about in the world of college football on our exclusive live stream next Thursday night, June 25th at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So what you need to do to either take part in that or to be a member in the audience, just to hang out, join the live chat, is just send me a comment to the comment section of any of the videos, or you can contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail and just say you're interested. I'm interested in the live stream. And whether you want to be a guest on here on screen with me talking college football, or you just want to be in the audience, let me know. Again, just respond by saying, quote, I'm interested. And we'll be in contact, and I'll send you the link. You'll be part of the live stream, an exclusive live stream that we would like to become a staple here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. But this is our big launch for our exclusive live stream. And yes, there will still be plenty of call-in shows here, but we want to give you the opportunity to come on here, chat college football directly with me and with other folks on the live chat. So not just me. If this works really well, I'll just kick back and you guys will have at it. But it'll be a good time talking college football. So again, if you want to take part in the exclusive live stream, comment anywhere, not on the live chat here. That's going to be tough to find. Comment to any of the videos or send me an email, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Just say, I'm interested. And we'll go take it from there. If you want to yes, hang with follow us on Facebook. Just give us a like. That would be great. Just jump on over to Facebook, look up Mark Rogers TV, give us a like. And you can also contribute to the Voice of College Football via PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat. So the vision here man, we talked about it a lot tonight, in that imagine the content, the quality college football debate topics, analysis, breakdowns on programs and conferences and history and all of it that we could do if we were going full time, full throttle all the time. So please, maybe some coffee money. Anyway, that's the big vision. But whatever you can do, just like the videos. That's key as well. And we will see everybody back here at the latest on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time with our Florida State live stream. Tuesday night at 7 p.m. There you go. Florida State Seminoles live Tuesday at 7 Eastern Time. And in the meantime, we're posting a Florida breakdowns the next 2 days. Get your fix on Florida football. Gators down discussion, breaking down the offense, the Florida defense, and what the Gators need to do to beat Georgia and win the SEC East. So thank you again so much. Thanks for the contributions from BGPO Football Funk, Lamar Stevens as well, here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Hopefully I've not missed anything in the comment section in the live chat. If there's anything that you would like me to get to, then you just copy your comment, leave it in any of the comments sections on any of the videos. We will see you very soon. It was great to see everybody. Number one ND fan, Mineral Tim, 79, SEC Dog, Cheryl, of course, great to see you. Go Bucks. Swampy McGee, thank you so much for all the stats. It was awesome, Swampy McGee. We love it. You are almost like graphics producer. You are the lead graphics producer, Swampy McGee, leaving us with so much information down below. And I could never thank all of you enough. George, of course, and on and on and on. Who else did we have? VT, of course, in the live chat, as well as a Clemson Kid, NCIS Fanatic 21. Jordan was in there as well. And you guys are amazing. JJ, good to see you right here. And a number of other ones. I could never thank all of you enough. We'll do what my man Jason Parker on our Florida State show says so much about shout outs. We'll do that at some point. Just have a big show where I'm just shouting out saying thank you so much for making it happen right here. We're coming up on 20,000 subscribers. So you guys are the ones who have built this. Here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We'll see you Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Florida State live.